Welcome to a special end of season edition of Come On You Reds, the Toronto FC podcast. It's a pleasure as always. I am Gareth Wheeler. It's a good chance to sit down, put a bow on the season that was, as well as look ahead to the future. And who better to do that with than head coach of Toronto FC, Mr. Bob Bradley. Good to see you, Bob. How are you?
I'm okay. Good to be here.
It's been a couple days since the end of the season. Is that enough time to be able to sit back, kind of reflect on the highs and lows of the campaign that was and everything that was brand new that came your way this season?
No, it takes more time, but it's a normal process at the end of every season where you reflect, go back through notes, look at games again and again, and obviously create real discussions with our staff. We sit down with players, so there's a lot to do, but yeah, we're still thinking about many things.
You came to Toronto, obviously with knowledge of the club, you know, what the city was all about as well. Did anything surprise you when it came to, you know, what you actually experienced or potentially even the job that had to be done and was required in rebuilding this team?
There were no surprises. First and foremost, we love Toronto. We have been here. It's an amazing city. And a big reason that I was so excited then and now is the connection that the club has with the city and the fans. So that part in the Bradley family means so much. And the work that goes into rebuilding this team is all dedicated to the fans and the city to make sure that we can put a team in front of them that competes at the highest level, that plays great football, and there's work to be done. So on that end, still a huge level of excitement. As far as the challenge, no, I knew that there was a lot of work that was needed. It happens at different times with different teams in sports where you get to a point and things now need to be reviewed. And there needs to be, I try to stay away from the word rebuilding, but a process to really work again to get a team and standards up to par.
Obviously, a change came on the field. 20 players left the club. You yourself, your coaching staff, largely brand new as well. So there is going to be a period of transformation. Yet we live in a microwave world where everyone wants things done instantaneously. Is that a realistic expectation in the football world today? And for this club, that things happen just like that?
It just depends on the situation when anybody takes over. So was it realistic that this team this year was going to have the kind of roster to compete at the top end of the league? Probably not. Of course, when you start out training, the hope is that things can come together quickly, that you'll see many guys improve in leaps and bounds right away, and there's this push to continue to go and go and go. But no, the idea that we were going to immediately flip a switch and become a great team, there's a process, and the process involves many things. It involves establishing standards. It involves ideas on how you train every day. There's got to be an agreement and a sense, shared vision of how we're going to play. And then if you consider the challenge that some guys are coming in mid-season, Lorenzo and Mimo, and then as it turned out, Fede and Mark Anthony and Richie, there were changes at that point. There was always going to be things that provided great challenges. You know, when I get asked about the season, I typically start by saying challenging. It was very challenging.
Yet there were some real positive steps, some momentum that was building in the team. You could feel it just being in the stadium, Bob. I mean, that Charlotte 4-0 victory at home, that's something that will stick with me. Of all the nights covering this team over the years at BMO Field, that was something special. Even the last night of the season, when the playoff hopes were gone, the stadium was full. It was alive. There's a real vibe around this team right now. I wonder if you felt that, or if maybe there's something else that you're proud of that you were able to establish this season.
Well, clearly we felt the excitement in the stadium, and the excitement level rose, of course, when Lorenzo and Fede and Mimo arrived, and there was the connection immediately between those players and a big part of our fan base. So that was something that everybody absolutely loved. Look, the other thing that I really enjoyed was, even though it was still more inconsistent than we wanted, there's always a feeling that in any moment when we play good football, whether it's for a few minutes, whether it's a half, or whether it's a more complete game, that there's an appreciation of the football that got played that day. And I always knew that the fans here are into the game, they're passionate, and they understand what the game is all about. And so when you play well and you know they can see it and they feel it and they appreciate it, that's important. And you know, when I look at all the home games, yeah, ups and downs, but there were enough days where the football or the goals that we scored, the way the ball moved, moments where we won the ball and attacked quickly, there were enough moments like that in the home games where I know our fans could see something. We've got work because we didn't have as many of those when it came to away games. And we're still not as consistent. It shows in the record. It shows in the fact that we still give away too many goals. It still shows in the fact that oftentimes we create advantages, but don't do well enough to take that advantage and really make a big chance. So there's always a list of things where you see football-wise how much further we have to go. But hopefully the fans saw some of those little things that give them hope of the kind of football that we'll continue to play and the team will be.
Up until the final couple weeks of the season, like, playoffs was still a realistic expectation for this group. So it's not as if the group was a mile off. And when you're building this team, and it might not be a rebuild, retool, when you're constructing what a Bob Bradley Toronto FC team is going to look like, I mean, the team that you had this year was a group of players that have been with Toronto FC for quite some time, a group of young players really getting their first taste of first team regular football. Then, like you said, important players coming to this club midstream, partway through the season. There's some real talent there, Bob. But how does this collection of good players become a competitive team? And when I say competitive, I mean a team that can compete for MLS Cup. What's it going to take to make that transition?
Well, in a simple way, we need a preseason, right? We need time together. I think we were able to do a good job of quickly understanding what Fede's like on the field, what Lorenzo's like on the field, how to incorporate their qualities and their talents. But there are other details that we've got to still determine with those guys. You know, how much of a pressing team are we going to be? I think we want to always be a team that when we lose certain balls has a mentality in some situations to go and win it back quickly. But that doesn't mean that we're a team that's ready to press for 90 minutes a game. And so the understanding of what our ideas are when we have the ball and how that gets us into good positions, how it gets our best players into areas where they can make plays, score goals, and then how all of that fits with the team understanding of what we want to do when we lose the ball. And the balance of how attack goes with defense. We've got to get through preseason. We've got to work at how some of those things come around. We just haven't had enough time together. And even the final stretch from Charlotte until the end of the season became inconsistent because oftentimes the lineups from game to game were inconsistent. And so, you know, we were all excited when we played that first half against Charlotte because in addition to what Lorenzo could give us on the left and Fede on the right, it was a game where Michael and Mark Anthony Kay and Oso were together in the midfield. And we didn't get enough games where those three were on the field together. Richie came later. So there's just details that come when we have the consistency of training, having guys healthy, and then taking the things that we work on every day and testing them in games.
A preseason will be valuable for them. It'll be valuable for you as well. Bradley ball's thrown around there. Do you like that term, Bradley ball?
No.
No, you don't?
No.
Because not everyone has their name attached to a way of playing.
No, because that's not how it works. It's not. The way a team plays is not something that like I've come up with. I think you have ideas on things that good teams do, and then you try to have a picture of what your players are all about, and then you try to build in and implement certain ideas. For sure, when we have the ball, we want to be a team that finds good ways to go forward. We want to find a mix of controlling the game, but also moments when we can go forward faster, get into the box before the other team has so many defenders back. We played some home games where teams chose to play against us in a low block, and we still then need work on how you can create chances against a low block. That's one of the biggest challenges in football. You see it regularly. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I think this idea that when you lose the ball, what is the team going to look like? I don't think we want to be a team that defends very deep on the field for the whole game. I don't think we want to be a team that allows the other team to regularly have a large amount of possession. I think we want to find a good balance in the way we do things. And, I think good teams take advantage of the strengths of the best players. I think good teams are complete. I think good teams can win games in different ways. And then I'm a fan of football. When I watch the best teams, the best players, I see things that are exciting. I want to make sure that we're a team that's fun to watch, that's exciting.
When other managers look at the team and some of the players you have, there has to be some level of jealousy. Like, you have some phenomenal players in your group, but coming up with the right way for all of it to work within the team concept, that does present a different challenge. It's not as simple as putting those players into the team and then making sure that the group reaches their full potential. I think we're actually, and I don't know if you would agree with this, we're seeing a little bit of a changing of the guard in Major League Soccer. These teams that have been perennially successful over the last 7-8 years, Atlanta, Portland, Seattle, throw TFC in that group. None of these sides made the playoffs this time around. So are you incorporating different ideas? Do you have a different vision on how to be successful in this new Major League Soccer that we're experiencing?
The new Major League Soccer just is built on more teams having their own identities, more teams having a defined style of play. The teams that you mentioned are all teams that when you're successful, then you are always challenged with how you transition from being a successful team. Do you keep players? When you have more experienced players, how long do they play? Are you quick to make changes? Those are all factors in terms of how teams maintain success. And I think everybody knows that in a league that has certain restrictions and salary budgets and everything else, it's a little bit different than the way some other leagues work, where top teams can still pretty much stay at the top all the time. So that certainly is part of what we see in MLS. But no matter where you go or what kind of football you like, a team that has good ideas on how to go forward, can create chances, a team that's got a solid understanding of how to defend when the ball is lost, a mix of pressing with reorganization, with compact defending. Look, these are qualities that you see in all good teams. And so you have to try to figure out with your group how those things work. Again, you can have the ball a lot, but that's got to lead to chances. When you lose the ball, you've got to have a way to make sure that the other team doesn't have an easy time doing what they want. you've got to find a way to still win balls in areas that can help you create chances. That's part of it. So there's different factors that you try to build into your team and make sure players are on the same page.
Two other things I want to ask you about. One, it's building off of that vision. This offseason, there's clearly work to do. How does that process and planning work with your front office team? And is there a position, is there a type of player that you're looking to add to help this group take those next steps forward?
Since I came here, I think we've worked very hard to establish a process, a small group of people, understanding of how to use data, creation of real discussions of what kind of football we want to play. We've worked hard to create profiles for different positions so that when we're looking around, we've got an idea of what kind of player in a certain position fits the way we want to play. The work with Jason Hernandez, Jack Dodd, Arthur Kasupinen, Mike Sorber, Paul Stalteri. Look, I think the group of us works very well together. We share everything with Bill so that he always knows what's going on, but we work collectively, and I think we are trying to establish a real process upon which decisions get made. I think that's the way the best clubs in the world operate. I said to Bill when I arrived that I don't think there's many clubs in the world anymore where one person can just say, I want this guy, and that's all there is to it, right? I don't know this for a fact, but the word has always been that at Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp at first didn't want Mohamed Salah. And there was a small group of people, and as they looked through things, it got put over and over and over, and eventually as a group they made a decision that he would be the best choice. And my man Salah has done pretty well, and I think that worked out just fine. So I'm always trying to make sure that everyone here understands that that is the direction that we need to go, and I think we're working well in that regard. As a starting point, we still feel that at times defensively, even when we were organized well, we made mistakes. So I think we are understanding that we can look for some help in the defensive parts of the field, whether that's central defense, discussion on where we are with goalkeepers. Obviously, Alex and Q have been here for a while, have done great jobs, but there's ongoing discussions about where we're going in terms of that position. We need to add some depth in the midfield, and we didn't get consistent play from the striker position. Jesus had a really good start. The second part of the season didn't go as well. Io is a young striker with great potential. I think this year was still a challenge that when you come off of a major surgery, sometimes you need that first full season under your belt. And so I'm glad that we were able to push him and keep him healthy. But we certainly look closely around the field and think of how we can improve ourselves.
So by the sounds of it, there will be change. It's inevitable.
Yes.
Is there a danger of there being too much change? Like, are you cognizant of that, or are you open-minded?
It depends what players you bring in. No, we're open-minded. You're constantly challenging each other with how to put together the best roster. The work this year to establish certain ideas, a way of training, when you show up every day, what's expected, you learn a lot. You see which guys respond well. There's always this idea that you want players that love football, all right? Come in every day excited, are open to being coached, want to get better, and with everything that we do, not everybody would agree with it, but the idea of training sessions where we create game actions, where we are constantly trying to help players see little things that they can do better, video, stopping training in certain moments to show a guy a situation, there's a real attempt to try to help everybody get better. Does everybody embrace that? Not always. I'm not always sure why, but and that's not new here. That's been the case everywhere. You always appreciate players that get a taste of what we want to be. The kind of football that we want to play, I think, is exciting. I think anybody who loves football would love to try to be here and be in training every day, and want to play the kind of football that we are showing at times. So, yeah, we got to keep working to figure out how to get the right group.
Lastly, I have to ask you about the kids. I say the kids that way because they probably don't like being referred to as kids anymore, but a lot of young players. There was a steep learning curve for some this season, like some really good moments and some ones that are absolutely teachable and will go a long way to building the type of player they are in the future. Even TFC2, really solid year as well. What did you learn about them? And do you think there was a little bit of an eye-opener about what that step is like from playing with the reserve or a TFC2 team to coming up and playing with the first team?
Look, I'm always excited to work with young players. I've had a great time working with some young players all over the world, seeing them grow. Always excited when some of them move on and do great things. And you want to try to challenge young guys in the right way. You want to encourage them. You want to push them. You want to see them excited and respond. The bar gets set high, and so there are days where you back up a little bit because maybe it's too much for certain guys. And then you assess. I think that the young group of players here, in the first half of the season, many of them got opportunities. That was important because I think some of them felt they were ready for opportunities. And then when they get on the field, you have things that you can look at, that you can show them, that you can talk to them about. So that part of the work went on throughout the season and will continue, and we'll see what happens.
It's going to be a busy offseason. League's Cup starts next year. Other curveballs are going to be thrown your way. It's a Gold Cup year, but first, the World Cup. I had the pleasure of being in 2 stadiums for your games in 2010 in South Africa. Dramatic 2-2 final. Unfortunately, 2-1 loss in extra time in Ghana. Ghana against the United States. When you're looking on, which team do you think will do the best from CONCACAF? Is it the U.S., Canada, Mexico, Costa Rica? Some intriguing players on these sides, and I think some decent questions can be asked by all of them.
I'm excited for both the United States and Canada. I think that there's talent on both teams. I think that it's so important for the game in Canada that this team qualified, the way they qualified, some of the personalities, some of the talents. And from my experience in the World Cup, the one thing that I think about is that the work along the way is so important, because when you get to the World Cup, in group play, things happen quickly. And there's usually a moment in that first round, whether it's in the second game or whether it comes down to the third game, but one moment where you are right on the fence. You're either going to make a play or have the mentality to get through something, or it's just not going to happen. And I think that when I was the U.S. coach in the cycle leading into South Africa, we had some advantages. We played amazing friendlies against big teams. We played Brazil a few times. We played Argentina a few times. We played England in Wembley. We played Spain in Santander. We played Switzerland in Basel. We played Sweden in Gothenburg. And then, of course, we were in the Confederations Cup in 2009.
Second place, right?
We lost in the final. Yeah, you're rubbing a lot into it. So,
just facts.
No,
just facts.
But you're going out of your way. But those experiences paid off. And with the advent of Nations Leagues, CONCACAF Nations League, European Nations Leagues, teams aren't able to have the same level of games. There's no more Confederations Cup. And so it's a bigger challenge for teams to know what it's like to play in those kind of games against those kind of players and be ready. Now, I think both John and Greg do an excellent job, both do excellent jobs, and we'll have the guys prepared. But I know that will be a huge challenge, and I'm excited to watch.
We can't wait. You should be working on a broadcast somewhere, to be honest with you.
No,
your presentation skills, your wealth of knowledge. See, now I'm pumping your tires a little bit. No more shots.
I am not a TV guy. That's for sure.
Bob, this has been great. Honestly, the excitement is back with Toronto FC. And I'd say enjoy some time off, but I have a feeling that you're just going to be working hard.
No, we've got a lot to do, but thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Okay, guys, good.
Bob Bradley joining us here on Come On You Reds. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been Come On You Reds. Continue to watch and subscribe on Toronto FC's YouTube channel or however you subscribe to your Toronto FC podcast.